Our next guest in studio is preparing to take the helm of the American Academy of Forensic Science. Dr. Christopher Kip Thompson is a nationally renowned forensic psychiatrist and will be serving as president of AAFS next year. And he's here now with a preview of his upcoming term. So first of all, congratulations on this exciting new role.
Thanks very much, Molly.
So as you look ahead, you've already identified the inclusion of ethical AI into the forensic science community as a top priority, but why do you feel that this is so important?
It seems to me that frequently, if not always, the development and implementation of new technologies outpaces our ability to study them, to regulate them, and minimize their negative effects. The ethos of Silicon Valley has been move fast and break things, and you've seen disruptor move from a negative term to one that's actually positive. So I think that we've seen the pitfalls of those types of things happen when you see the rollout of Lyft, Bird, social media. And as a child and adolescent psychiatrist, I've really seen the negative effects of social media on youth. And I think in the forensic psychiatry and forensic science community in general, we really need to try to avoid those pitfalls. I think we have to roll these technologies out thoughtfully and carefully because we're dealing with some very important issues. In the civil realm, you're dealing with a lot of money. In the forensic realm, you're dealing with people's liberty interests. So that's the primary reason I think that we need to be really concerned about.
Yeah, you mentioned Facebook and some of those negative consequences it's had. As you say, rolling these out responsibly, can you look ahead and kind of figure out the way to best do that?
I think it is difficult to do that sometimes because the technology is changing so quickly. I think there are some things that you can predict. And there was, I thought, an interesting idea that I heard in the plenary session yesterday, which dealt with having a regulatory body of some sort certify these technologies for use for different purposes in the forensic science community, kind of like an FDA of forensic science tools.
A little more oversight.
Exactly, yeah.
How will AI assist in the gathering and processing of forensic data?
I think the possibilities are really limitless when you see these systems that can analyze terabytes of data and summarize them with some degree of accuracy, and systems that are really interconnected and almost instantaneously updatable. There's a lot of promise, I think, in that. But I think that there's also some pitfalls, as we mentioned earlier. You can see forensic genealogy databases helping with catching of serial killers. You can see machine learning and data processing abilities of AI that can summarize all these different records for forensic psychiatry and for the legal community.
Can you elaborate on all the different disciplines where ethical AI could be maybe beneficial?
I think in the forensic sciences, just about every one of the sections will be touched in some way or another. I mentioned already jurisprudence, which might benefit from or have some downsides to the ability to really analyze and process data very quickly. Forensic psychiatry, you have the same ability to look at terabytes of data. There are also other technologies that are in this space that I think will be relevant to circle back to some of your questions about other disciplines. Digital and multimedia sciences, you can see them looking at crime scene investigation using the internet and social media. There's deep fakes and identification of deep fakes. There was AI-generated voice recently from the Pakistani election. The individual who was elected was actually in prison, and there was an AI-generated voice that delivered his message to his supporters.
There's a lot of fear out there about AI. And when you bring up deepfakes, and you can understand why, obviously. What are the ethical concerns of using AI?
I think that the two primary ones, at least as it involves forensic science, are around privacy and around the possibility that there is erroneous information or conclusions that are generated. The privacy concerns, are pretty self-evident, but when you look at some of the algorithms that are used in different situations, their conclusions are only as good as the information that is put into them and the assumptions on which they're based. So you do have algorithms that tend to maybe overstate risk for certain racial or ethnic groups. There was a child welfare algorithm that was used in a jurisdiction in the United States that also tended to overstate risk for, I think, certain ethnic groups. So I think you have to be careful with the inputs, and a lot of the algorithms are not publicly available. They're proprietary, so it's difficult to have oversight and vetting of those. And I think the other way that, from a forensic science perspective, that AI and all the different technologies could be, I won't say a problem, but may need to cause adjustments, is just from a workforce perspective. You're going to have the way that we do work fundamentally changed, and people are going to have to adapt to that. In the worst case scenario, there may be individuals who lose their jobs. Mm-hmm. There may be complete categories of jobs that go away in the very worst case scenario. And I know that people have been concerned about technology and their place in the world for a really long time, the Luddites, but it just seems like the pace that we're going right now and the pace that the technology is increasing exponentially, that's going to be even more of a concern. And in a kind of more general sense, I think there are some concerns with the advancement of technology, algorithms, privacy, companies knowing more and more about our data, about potentially an erosion of human agency, meaning that we entrust more of our decision making to AI or to algorithms. You can kind of see it already with driving apps, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and people will drive down a street that they clearly see is not, correct, but because the
phone told the GPS told them to.
Whatever Google Maps told them to. So, and people tend to favor convenience over privacy.
How are some of the ways that machine learning is already proving impactful to forensic science?
Some of the things we mentioned earlier, as far as analyzing these tranches, huge tranches of data. So, for example, feeding in depositions, records, interviews, and coming up with a summary that maybe an associate at a law firm would have done before, or an associate forensic psychiatrist might have done before. And I think some of the other ways that we talked about, the forensic genealogy, the ability to analyze huge amounts of data from those databases, it may make kind of the long-term serial killers a thing of the past, but there are also privacy concerns around that, I think.
When you say it may make the serial killers a thing of the past, mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, it seems like that one of the missing pieces that was with DNA in the past was the difficulty that law enforcement agencies and different databases, and I'm not an expert in this, but this is just kind of layman's perspective, was the difficulty with interconnecting all of them, and the difficulty in only being able to access DNA from individuals who probably had a criminal record or had a reason to take their DNA before. Now, when you have tons of individuals who are doing 23andMe or some of these other genealogy databases, the links that you can make mm-hmm. with different codes, right. And genetics codes are much. They go out much further, and that's how this serial killer in California was caught, mm-hmm. Golden State Killer, and so I think it's going to be more difficult, which is a good thing, obviously, for serial killers to survive for a long time and not be apprehended.
Because you've got such a much more vast database of DNA, and you can make those connections more quickly.
Exactly.
How quickly do you see AI becoming a mainstream component of forensic science research and testing?
I think this could happen within the next 10 years, perhaps even more quickly. I'm not sure that's a great thing, based on what we were talking about earlier. This compressed timeline doesn't really give us ample time to kind of vet the technology and possibly put some regulations in place and make sure that we can limit the downsides of it. And as I said, you can see kind of our cultural landscape littered with examples of the ask for forgiveness, not permission motto. And it's all about balancing, I think, the risks and the downsides.
My last question for you, why did you want to be president? What kind of motivated you for that?
I've always liked this organization in that it has cross collaboration with other disciplines. I've been member and leader of other psychiatry and forensic psychiatry organizations, but I think AAFS, the scope of it, having 12 different sections and really a lot of gravitas as far as like its influence on the forensic science community and also I think policymakers. And I think the organization is also more receptive to interfacing with policymakers in the legislative realm. We're starting to do it a little more in the judicial realm, and to kind of try to use our expertise in a way to influence society in a beneficial way.
Okay, well, I know that AAFS is in good hands. You're going to have an exciting year ahead, so thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks for speaking with me, Molly.